Every day, no matter the weather, she wore long sleeves. It wasn't just a quirky habit, it was a mystery. Rumors swirled, but no one knew the shocking truth behind her choice. It all started with a spilled coffee cup and a fleeting glimpse beneath her sleeve, sparking a mystery far deeper than anyone could have imagined. But what does her decision have to do with stolen artwork, cryptic tattoos, and a dangerous criminal ring? Stick around to uncover the jaw-dropping twists and turns that will leave you speechless. Elena's routine revealed. You know how some people embark on some activities that are awkward, and yet you feel like you want to know more about them? Although the long sleeves of Elena were again nothing more than eccentricity, they remain mysterious to some extent. She always had something on over her, summer or winter, rain or shine. It wasn't haphazard, it was planned, in a way that made you think that there was a reason for it. It did to me too, to be honest. Let me show you what I mean. Elena was like a walking sunshine each morning that she came to work. She was a very quiet girl and very kind to everyone. She was also very artistic. There was no doubt about that. Hers, carelessly placed on the desk, seemed to be professional drawings to be displayed in a gallery. However, she was talented. She made sure to avoid everyone she knew or met. People simply did not know much about her, and those long sleeves, they only made her more intriguing. Naturally, people speculated. Some believed that she could be concealing some scars, and others believed she could be covering tattoos. And then there were the more bizarre conjectures, such as the hypothesis that she was perhaps trying to hide something monumental. It may have sounded ridiculous, but since no plausible reason was given, the people were free to use their creativity. Even I started to wonder. There was a time when the AC was off on one hot summer day, and all the people at the office seemed uncomfortable. Everyone except Elena. She didn't roll up her sleeves or appear to be inconvenienced by the heat. She only smiled, and the composure that was different from the rest of the team was evident. That was the time I knew this was not just a case of just wanting to have long sleeves on. It was not without purpose. There was some deeper meaning. What impressed me the most was her mannerisms. One would expect a person who wears long sleeves to avoid attention to blend in, but that's the last thing Elena does. She had this calm demeanor about her, the kind that makes you think she knows something you don't. That only made her all the more fascinating. One evening when we were packing up, I saw her sleeve move a little. For the tiniest fraction of a second, I saw something that resembled a painting under the cloth. I didn't say anything, but it planted a seed of curiosity that wouldn't go away. It wasn't just me who saw these things. The whole office had their opinions, but none of them was courageous enough to confront her about it. It seemed that there was something about her that would make it awkward to ask her questions. It was as if the world was so afraid of the sound of silence and the length of her sleeves. In retrospect, I believe that it was on that hot summer day that the change occurred. This is why then I realized that Elena was not just someone who had this unusually peculiar habit. She was a person who had a history that was yet to be discovered. Uncovering the mystery. Do you ever get the feeling that there is always something lurking in the background? A piece of a jigsaw which does not belong? Long sleeves had become just that for me, Elena's long sleeves. It was not just the comfort or style, and people around me were not the only ones to have realized this. The climax of the episode was when Jake had his birthday party. There was laughter and cake in the office conference when Jake, as always, tripped into Elena. His coffee spilled over her arm and stained the sleeve of her shirt. The event that followed was quite unexpected by everyone. Elena froze, her face pale. Instead of going to the sink or just laughing it off, she did not take long. However, she just said sorry and got out of the room without any further production of the ugly emotion. But just before she walked away, I saw that there was a flash of color on her upper arm under the sleeve. It was not a scar or skin without hair, but a design of some sort. And as time went on, the rumors about her started to emerge. Some thought that she might be concealing a huge tattoo or trying to camouflage a disease. Other theories went to the more sinister ground, suggesting that she had her arms covered to conceal something terrible. This left a thought with me that it was impossible to erase the impression that this was not just about the free choice of a person. Some days after the party, something else rather strange occurred. There was one of Elena's sketches missing from her desk. It was not a simple sketch. It was that she has been on for weeks. A dark sketch with stormy colors. When asked about it, she simply shrugged it off, but the hesitation in her eyes said it all. The next day, I discovered a letter written in a small, neat hand on a sheet of paper that had evidently served as the back of a picture Elena had drawn. The message was simple yet chilling. It is a great pity that some of the stories are never to be told. At that moment, the viewers realized that this was not a mystery. Elena was being muzzled by someone or something. Although I would like to leave her alone, the burden that she did not want to reveal to me could not be tolerated. It got even stranger when I discovered that the writing on the note was not Elena's. It was uncertain and awkward, as if written by someone different, someone who knew what she wanted to conceal, what she was concealing, and maybe even her background. The more I considered this, the more I knew for sure. Elena wasn't hiding because she wanted to. She was hiding because she had to. Sam's investigation. Sometimes there is something that just doesn't sit well and follows you, regardless of your efforts to leave it behind. That was exactly what Sam experienced. The more he watched Elena, the more he thought there was a lot more to her than met the eye, and those long sleeves she always had on. Sam was not a curious fellow by nature, but he had a genuine concern for people. What he could not afford with Elena was to look the other way with the despair that appeared to cling to her. He started watching her more closely after she quickly left the room after the coffee fiasco. It was not invasive, but in the way one would observe a friend who seemed to be bearing a load. The first indication was given by her paintings. Elena had brought an incredibly beautiful painting which she put on the wall of the office for everyone to see. Humble was her way. She did not have the tendency to show off. In the painting, there was a man standing in the middle of the storm with what appeared to be long sleeves. At first, he thought it was just that, but as he looked at it more, he saw more of it. The figure was not only hidden, it was covered with patterns, meaningful and deliberate, as if they were concealing something else from the rain. The second clue came when Sam tried to start putting together what he could about Elena's past that he knew. But for such a gifted and generous person, she really appeared to be in the shade. She could not be asked about her past. She has no close relatives and friends, and her stays were vague as well. Forcing aside his curiosity, Sam decided to look a little further since it was a concern that he had. But he did not find anything. No trace online, no accounts on social networking sites, and nothing that could prove that she ever existed before she moved to town. It was not only strange, but it was rather creepy. Sam changed his mind completely when he found another painting hidden in a drawer of her desk. This one resembled the first, but there was a change. The solitary figure has another person with him. The second figure was next to it, with arms wide, and also had the same patterns painted all over the body. The fact suddenly dawned on him as a bolt from the blue. The patterns were not aesthetic shapes, they were signs that resembled maps. The meaning was clear. The long sleeves on Elena's dress were not a fashion statement of her own. They were a shield, for her, and perhaps for another person too. Sam knew that at that moment he was on the verge of a major breakthrough. He didn't have all the answers, but one thing was certain. They also masked much more than just Elena's arms. They hid stories, other people's secrets, and maybe the means to protect someone. The revelation. It was always hard to figure out Elena, but her secret began to come out in the quietest of times. One day, as everyone else was leaving the office, Sam saw her sitting at her desk and thinking. Her usual drive to do her work seemed to have been stifled, and she seemed smaller because of the weight on her. No one knew that Elena had her story tattooed on her body. She carefully wore long arms, and under them were tattoos that no one had ever seen before. For no reason did they serve show or ego. Each one stood for a part of her story that she hadn't been brave enough to tell yet, so they were all signs of her past. Her trip began in a house where being quiet was important for life. A bird locked in a cage tattoo she got on her arm was a reminder of her childhood. She grew up in a volatile household and learnt early on that you had to fight for your freedom. The bird represented her promise to herself that she would one day fly on her own. The second tattoo told a different story, one of love and loss. It showed two hands reaching out to touch each other as waves shook the picture. It was a tribute to her sister Mia, who was always there for her. Together, they had hoped for a life other than the chaos they were born into. Sad events, on the other hand, took Mia away from her dreams. Elena had lost the only person besides her sister who really knew her. She turned to art to help her deal. It became her voice when she couldn't find the words, and a safe place when the world got too loud. The third one, which went from her wrist to her elbow, was the scariest one she had. It showed a broken paintbrush dipped in ink. In order to honor Mia's memory, it was a call for justice. Before she died, Mia was a well-known artist whose work was full of life and energy. But that piece of art was taken after she died. A group of thieves stole all of Mia's work and sold it, wiping out her memory so that it could be sold to anyone who could pay the most. To Elena, the tattoos were more than just a way to show her sadness. They were a map. Each symbol gave a tip about where Mia might keep her stolen things. Elena had learnt bits and pieces over many years, going down a dangerous and sneaky road. Her long arms were her weapons. Not only did they hide her tattoos, but they were also about protecting herself. She thought about the fights she had fought, the losses she had suffered, and the will she had found to keep going every time she looked at the patterns. She did, however, carefully think about the risk that came with her job. The people who stole Mia's work were not easy to get along with. After years of being watched, Elena had been careful not to draw too much attention to herself. But as she got closer to telling the truth, it became harder for her to stay unseen. Even though he didn't know all the details yet, Sam could tell how much Elena weighed. Her art, the way she acted, and the secrets she kept to herself all showed that her life was not easy. As her story came out, one thing became very clear. The long sleeves were not only... The second tattoo told a different story, one of love and loss. It showed two hands reaching out to touch each other as waves shook the picture. It was a tribute to her sister Mia, who was always there for her. Together, they had hoped for a life other than the chaos they were born into. Sad events, on the other hand, took Mia away from her dreams. Elena had lost the only person besides her sister who really knew her. She turned to art to help her deal. It became her voice when she couldn't find the words, and a safe place when the world got too loud. The third one, which went from her wrist to her elbow, was the scariest one she had. It showed a broken paintbrush dipped in ink. In order to honor Mia's memory, it was a call for justice. Before she died, Mia was a well-known artist whose work was full of life and energy. But that piece of art was taken after she died. A group of thieves stole all of Mia's work and sold it, wiping out her memory so that it could be sold to anyone who could pay the most. To Elena, the tattoos were more than just a way to show her sadness. They were a map. Each symbol gave a tip about where Mia might keep her stolen things. Elena had learnt bits and pieces over many years, going down a dangerous and sneaky road. Her long arms were her weapons. Not only did they hide her tattoos, but they were also about protecting herself. She thought about the fights she had fought, the losses she had suffered, and the will she had found to keep going every time she looked at the patterns. She did, however, carefully think about the risk that came with her job. The people who stole Mia's work were not easy to get along with. After years of being watched, Elena had been careful not to draw too much attention to herself. But as she got closer to telling the truth, it became harder for her to stay unseen. Even though he didn't know all the details yet, Sam could tell how much Elena weighed. Her art, the way she acted, and the secrets she kept to herself all showed that her life was not easy. As her story came out, one thing became very clear. The long sleeves were not only a shield but also proof of all the pain she had been through, shadows from the past. Sam was confused right away about what he was seeing. When Elena's sleeve moved, he saw a tattoo on her arm. They were almost like codes. They weren't just there for no reason. He thought about it more and more, and that night, they made the choice to act, which made them feel heavy with anticipation. It was clear outside, and as they got closer to the falling building, their breath made clouds. Every sound the old wooden floor made, and every step Elena took, hurt her heart. The tattoos on her arm felt important, like a map that led her to the truth. They found a secret room on the far side of the building, buried under trash and dust. Elena knew they were in the right place as soon as she saw the complicated lock that had the same symbol on it as her tattoo. She opened it with shaky hands. Inside, rows of paintings that are kept very straight. It looked like Mia's style popped right off the page, and the bright, alive colors told stories of love, loss, and strength. Elena stopped breathing as she carefully went around the edges of her sister's work. This was more than just art. It was Mia's spirit that came to life. Their comfort didn't last. A lot of people were walking through the warehouse, and a bright torchlight cut through the blackness. They had been found by the thieves. Elena had a lot on her mind. It was high adrenaline for her and Sam, so they jumped behind a stack of boxes. Not only were the guys after the art, they were also there to keep people from getting too close. Elena had been trying to dodge trouble for years, but she could no longer hide. With Sam's help, she called the cops in a sneaky way by using her phone's emergency call feature. Sam quickly thought of a way to distract the soldiers by knocking over a stack of boxes, which made a loud noise. The chaos bought them valuable seconds. The weight of the world seemed to lift off of Elena when the police arrived. The stolen art was finally safe when the thieves were caught in the act. Elena was in the center of everything. As the police put the pieces into groups, she felt a mix of joy and relief. The first time she did something she hadn't done in years. She pulled her arms up to show off her intricate tattoos that told stories. Each symbol represented a different part of her journey, from grief to love to life to victory. Her badge of pride was something she had hidden in the past. Sam looked at her with pride as he knew how far she had come. Elena gave a soft smile. She felt better than she has in years. The long arms she wore were no longer protecting her. Scars, tattoos, and everything else about her make her ready to meet the world. For Elena, this wasn't the end of the story. It was a new start. Elena's story shows how strong determination can be and how strong weakness can be. Please like, share, and follow if you want to read more inspiring stories like this. Don't forget to click on the movie that's about to break through right now. Have you ever learned a secret about someone you know? Share your thoughts below.